Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tales of Avatar, the podcast. I'm being very, very into the subject of this episode. I really like this one, so I'm very excited to talk to you about it, Acorn. Oh, by the way, Acorn Bandit is here, and I'm Booster Greg.
By the way, let's just get the introductions out of the way.
Let's get it out of the way. We got so many tales to tell. I am so excited about this. Me
let's too.
Go. Yes. All right. So, in case you didn't know and you didn't read the title of the episode for whatever reason, this week we're talking about Book 2, Episode 15, The Tales of Ba Sing Se, or, as we like to call it,
a kick in the feels.
A kick in the feels indeed. So because this episode had a little bit of a different structure to it than what we're used to, I went ahead and took some liberties with the format of the show. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you each tale that we go into and who wrote it. And after that, it will be business as usual. But at the end, we will not be talking about our MVP or moral of the episode. We have a hidden surprise for you that we're going to talk about. It's not that big of a surprise. I'm blowing it out of proportion, but it still be a little bit different. And it's very exciting for me and hopefully for you. Also, before we dive into the episode, just really quickly want to thank everyone who's been leaving their 5-star reviews, have been emailing us directly at avatarthepodcast@gmail.com, and have been tweeting at us at podcastavatar. We super appreciate it. And although we are always perpetually behind on responding to everyone, I do want you all to know that we genuinely read every single email that comes in, and we love it no matter how long or short they are. It's super appreciated, and it means a lot to both of us that you take the time to do so. So thank you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Before we get into the tales, I do want to make a note that this structure, the Tales of Ba Sing Se, was the brainchild of Aaron Ehas. He had the idea to do a special episode full of short stories conceived and written by artists and production staff on the show. This format gave them a chance to take a break from the heavy, epic storyline and create these little slice of life vignettes for the characters. And I think, ironically, by taking a break from the main storyline, we actually learned more about the characters in this episode. So I'm really excited to talk about that.
Yes. And also something that this might just be me, might just be Greg being crazy, but I also feel like this helps make it seem like the team is in Ba Sing Se for a long period of time.
Yeah, it does.
Which I super appreciate. It's not just like we fast forward like a couple months and it goes 2 months later and you don't see anything. I like this like slice of life, get to see what they do in their downtime kind of storytelling. So I'm into it. All right. The first tale that we get to watch is the tale of Toff and Katara. This tale was written by Joanne Estosta and Lisa Wallander. Now, quick note right off the bat of trivia, the tale of Toff and Katara is the only tale in the episode that focuses on 2 characters.
Yeah, which I thought was nice because we needed some bonding time between Katara and Toff. Ever since she's like, I really am glad that we have another girl in the group. It's like, this has been a long time coming.
Yeah. This was also my second to least favorite one, though, if I'm being honest. Team Avatar gets ready for their day. Aang shaves his head. Sokka shaves his whiskers. It's like those weird teenager whiskers. Sorry if you have weird teenager whiskers out there. I used to have them, too. It's not great. Anyways, and we finally get to see how Katara's hair loops work. That was always a big mystery.
That was really cool.
Katara goes to check in on Toff, who is passed out and a mess. When Katara asks if Toff is going to get ready for the day, Toff gets up, hawks a loogie into a spittoon, and then says that she is, in fact, ready. Katara does the typical mom thing and asks if Toff is going to wash up since she is covered in dirt, but Toff replies that what Katara calls dirt, Toff just calls a healthy coating of earth. Katara looks at Toff and says that she knows exactly what is needed, and that is a girl's day out. Do I have to? Toff protests. But Katara assures the young earthbender that it will be fun. Some other quick notes. This is the only episode in Avatar: The Last Airbender in which Sokka is seen with his own facial hair.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. And this is the first time that we've seen Aang shave his head. We will see it again next season, next book.
Yeah. And I think that's also what helps give this a sense of time lapsing, because we're able to see their like day-to-day routines, and they're living life in the city and they've been there for so long, they have their daily routines down, you know? It's like,
Yeah, true.
this is also the first time we're seeing them enjoy their time in Ba Sing Se this whole episode. So it's like they've really settled into the city life.
This is actually the only time that we're going to see them enjoy their time in the city of Ba Sing Se as well.
Very true.
So, yeah. And also, like, we've never seen Aang shave his head before.
Yeah, it's just always been perfectly bald.
Yeah, it just kind of, it does ground them a little more in reality as well, as much as you can ground a concept like the Avatar. Anyways, Katara and Toph go to the Fancy Lady Day Spa, and this is the start of their girls' day out, which is, this whole spa is not exactly Toph's kind of place. Are you ready for some serious pampering? Katara asks. Sure, Katara, whatever you say, as long as they don't touch my feet, Toph replies, which is exactly what they do at the spa.
Yep.
It actually takes 2 women to hold Toph down as the third one scrubs her feet and I guess attempts to give her a pedicure.
Can you imagine the calluses?
I can't even imagine how much pain Toph must be in because she's used to focusing all of her abilities through her feet.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So I almost wondered if it was like dogs hearing a dog whistle, kind of like, or like, you know how dogs like can hear better.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of like mentality where it's like a loud pitched screech and it's just painful to them. But like the same thing with her is like you touch her feet, it's just extra sensitive.
Yeah.
Is what I imagine. Yeah. And also the calluses. Ugh. Toph responds by exploding and throwing a fissure fit. That's what I'm going to call these from now on. Whenever she like
Fissure fit.
Fissure fit. Yeah, I like it. Which sends the woman working on her feet flying out of the room.
Ouch.
Things do go a little smoother as the 2 girls enjoy a mud bath a little bit later. Toph has her fun and bends the mud on her face to create like a spooky kind of appearance. So it's like I think it's like an alien slug monster looking thing.
Yeah,
is what I would best say. The woman who is bringing them hot towels sees this and runs away in terror as the 2 girls laugh. Finally, the girls enjoy a relaxing time in the sauna. Toph earthbends some more hot rocks onto the pile while Katara uses her water bending to splash the rocks and create more steam. The 2 friends let out a relaxing sigh.
That is more their speed, especially the mud bath. That's like Toph. Talk about a healthy layer of dirt. That's like
it's a lot.
A super healthy layer of dirt, aka mud.
Yes, yeah. This relaxing feeling doesn't last too long, though, unfortunately, as Toph and Katara are walking around town with their faces made up. A group of 3 older mean girls walk up and begin to insult them. More Toph. They insult Toph.
Yeah.
They throw in the, wow, great makeup for a clown, which, you know, that old insult where they like wait for you to say like, ah, thanks. And they go, yeah, you're a clown. Ha ha ha, we got you. I hate that so much.
Classic.
Which obviously makes Toph feel a little embarrassed and self-conscious. Katara tries to hurry Toph along, but when the mean girls continue and note that Toph is cute, kind of like one of their pet poodle monkeys in a sweater kind of cute, Toph unexpectedly begins to laugh. She laughs about how the poodle dig was a good one, but you know what else is a good dig? When you earthbend a hole underneath them and send them flying into a river below.
So satisfying.
Yeah. I also like that was kind of a pun with that, where she was like, yeah, you know what else is good? Because they're digging at her and then she digs a hole underneath them.
Yeah.
That's very subtle. I like that. Anyways, Toph, yeah, she slams her foot on the ground and they go down like a Bugs Bunny style hole in this bridge that they were walking on. And the 3 girls fall in and get soaked. Now that was funny, Katara says, as she waterbends a wave that sweeps the girls away and they scream.
Talk about bonding.
Yeah. Katara catches up to Toph and assures her friend that those mean girls don't know what they're talking about. Toph says that it's okay. She has found that one of the benefits of being blind is that she doesn't have to waste her time worrying about appearances. She doesn't care what she looks like, and she's not looking for anyone's approval. Katara admits that this is what she admires about Toph, her strength and confidence. And even though it doesn't matter to Toph, Katara does tell her friend that she is really pretty. Toph cheers up from hearing this and says she would return the favor, but she has no idea what Katara looks like. She then thanks her friend by punching her in the arm. The end. Yes.
Really sweet, actually.
Yeah, this one was a very straightforward, very sweet kind of tale. We do get to see the 2 girls bonding, which I like that they were kind of at odds in the beginning and then they kind of just come together towards the end. So I'm looking forward to see what happens with that friendship as we go through.
They finally found some middle ground, which was satisfying to watch because ever since Toff joined the team, Katara's been the overbearing mom figure, the sugar queen, as Toff calls her, and they've kind of been at odds. And then if they're not having like a spat or some sort of interaction where there's some conflict, they're doing things. They're defeating a drill, trying to drill through the Ba Sing Se wall. They're trying to accomplish something. So it's nice to see them come together and find some middle ground as people, where they were able to do this activity together and enjoy their time, but then also like make a true connection where Toph appreciates Katara protecting her and standing up for her, and Katara really wants Toph to know that she is special and she is pretty and she has value. And so they both like teach each other something in this, and they both like complement each other in different ways, which I think is healthy for their relationship going forward.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see them wade through the waters of their friendship and come to a common ground.
Wow.
I was thinking about that the entire time you were talking.
Oh my God. I thought you were a little too quiet. Formulating a double pun.
Double pun. All right. So this next tale, get ready. Get some tissues out.
Oh man, I'm never ready for this tale.
I pinged Acorn about this earlier. I don't know if you'll find this meaning. I'll bring it up at the end. I thought of something that made me actually tear up a little bit more about this episode. So I will obviously try to make everyone else tear up since I teared up, and I'll share it at the end.
Okay.
The Tale of Iro. This was written by Andrew Hubner. Iro walks through a marketplace over at Ba Sing Se and happens over to a picnic basket and runs his hand over it, feeling the texture of the weave. If this is for a romantic picnic, may I suggest the lavender one, the shop owner says as he points to a more ornate-looking basket. Iro hands the shop owner a coin and says that while this is not a romantic picnic, it is a special occasion. He takes his non-romantic basket and walks away. As he is walking, he sees a vase. I'm going to break the smooth Greg for a minute. Acorn, do you say vase or vase?
Honestly, it depends on the sentence.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll say vase, sometimes I'll say vase.
Interesting. I always say vase.
It's also like caramel. I say both. It depends on what I'm referring to.
I never say caramel. I only say vase or caramel when I'm like, I think I'm poking fun at something. For me, it's vase. That. Yeah, I'm not a fancy guy. I don't have fancy pronunciations about things. I was just curious. Anyways, back into it. Everyone, serious face back on.
Smooth Greg.
Smooth Greg. Here we go. As he is walking, he sees a vase containing a single wilting flower. He pushes the flower into the shade and it perks right up. The moonflower likes partial shade, Iro says with a smile, as the florist smiles back as a thank you. They both bow in respect, and Iro moves about his day. Iro finds himself at another shop, this one selling musical instruments. As he ponders over the selection of an instrument, his attention is brought to a child crying in the streets with his mother trying to console him. Iro takes an instrument from the shop and starts singing as he walks towards the boy. When he finishes his performance, he's kneeling next to the boy who is no longer crying. The young boy then tugs at Iro's beard just a little too tight, which causes Iro to groan while the boy laughs. The mother takes her son's hand and they walk away as Iro smiles.
This part, just because I've seen this episode so much, when he first sings this song, I lost it.
Really? The first time?
Oh, because I knew it was going to happen later. And
okay.
My brain went there. And so I started crying at this.
Yeah.
Also, I have a note about the musical instrument. It is a real instrument. Mm-hmm. The lukin, or I almost think it's chin at the end because of the Q-I-N, but it's L-I-U-Q-I-N. Mm-hmm. And it is a 4-stringed plucking instrument used to complement short or simple folk songs. It is made from brown wood and is rounded at the bottom, while the top is triangular. The tip of the instrument is rounded and has 4 cone-shaped turning pegs made from stone. These are commonly found throughout alleyway shops in Ba Sing Se, and I believe is a Chinese instrument.
It makes sense since he found it in the Earth Kingdom, and the Earth Kingdom is, I think what we discussed was based partially upon Chinese culture. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, can confirm it is specifically a 4 or 5-string Chinese mandolin.
Oh, that makes sense. That's really cool.
Yeah, especially the shape, right? Very mandolin-esque.
For sure, yeah. Iro continues and cuts through a courtyard and watches 4 boys playing earthbending ball. This group is having fun until one of the boys accidentally breaks a window with the ball, which causes a man to yell at them. It is usually best to admit mistakes when they occur and seek to restore honor, Iro tells the boys. But when the earth shakes as the man who lives in that building goes up to his broken window, we see that he is huge. And after he threatens the group, Iro adds, "But not this time. Run!" as everyone takes off.
Was it just me, or did the main kid dribbling the ball kind of look like Aang in book 3?
I thought he looked kind of like one of the kids from the Earthbending Academy with Master Yu. He had like that same haircut.
Too.
So I wonder if he's a fan of the hippo.
Might be.
Might be. That's my headcanon, is that kid is a fan of the hippo, which is great. But yes, Iro runs away from the huge, giant, scary man and retreats a few blocks over into a dark alley. He places his picnic basket on the ground and watches for the huge, angry man. "You, give me all your money," a normal-sized voice says. Iro turns around to see a mugger with a weak stance trying to take advantage of an old man. That old man is Iro, by the way, everyone. Don't get confused. Anyways, Iro catches the mugger off guard and then demonstrates how weak his stance is by knocking the mugger to the ground and disarming him with a single movement. Iro offers his hand and helps the mugger back up from the ground. He then hands the mugger back his knife and then shows him how a proper, solid stance would make him a much more serious threat. Iro points out that his assailant does not appear to be the criminal type, and the man admits that he's just confused. Moments later, the two share a hot cup of tea together, and we learn that the mugger, whose name is Tycho, just wants to be a masseuse and that nobody has ever really believed in him before. Iro tells him that he could be a great masseuse and leaves him with this parting thought. "While it is always best to believe in oneself, a little help from others can be a great blessing." Now, a quick voice acting note. There's only a couple in here that were of note. Tycho is voiced by Quentin Flynn, who is Axel from the Kingdom Hearts series. He voiced Reno from Final Fantasy VII Advent Children.
Oh my God.
Aruka Sensei from Naruto, and Kon from Bleach.
Oh, wow.
That's just brief. Like, his IMDb page goes on for quite some time. I recognized it kind of as Axel, but I didn't hear Aruka Sensei at all, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, that's a big pull right there.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, everyone, get your tissues ready. Here we go. The sun is setting over the city of Ba Sing Se. Leaves fall from a single tree atop a hill as Iro approaches it. Iro places the picnic basket at the base of the tree and removes his hat as he admires the sight of the great city. He kneels down in front of the tree and carefully stacks some rocks. So for me, this is reminiscent of what is done at a gravesite. A little personal information. I was raised Jewish, so like I remember very distinctly going to like my grandmother's gravesite and my dad or my grandfather placing rocks around it and on top of it. So when I first saw this episode, I was like, no. Okay. And after Iro does this, he begins to set up his picnic. He pulls out a sheet of paper and looks at it for a moment and then closes his eyes before placing it at the base of the tree. Iro finally pulls out 2 incense sticks and lights them with his fingers. "Happy birthday, my son," Iro says, as we notice that his picnic basket is a memorial for his fallen son, Lu-Ten. "If only I could have helped you." Tears fill Iro's eyes as he sings.
"Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like fragile tiny shells drifting in the foam. Little soldier boy, come marching home. Brave soldier boy comes marching home."
My eyes are welling up a little bit.
I know, mine too.
Okay, so that is the end of this episode. There are a couple things I want to talk about before we move on to the Tale of Aang. There is a line, I don't know which one it was, but there's a line that is actually delivered by Greg Baldwin, who actually takes over the character of Iro and also Aku from Samurai Jack. And the fact that you can't tell where the line is just a shining example of how good Greg Baldwin is.
Yeah, that's a testament to how good his voice acting is.
Yes.
And of course, he took over because this is the point at which Mako passed away, the voice of Iro.
But he doesn't fully take over until the end of book 2.
Yeah.
So I think what happened was they recorded a whole bunch. They need to go back to re-record, or they did rewrites or something, and Mako had already passed.
Yep.
Which also makes this part so much more sad.
So much more sad. And they dedicated it to Mako.
That was really nice.
Like layers of feels.
Yeah. The hill where Iro sets up his altar for his son is identical to the hill shown in the flashback in the beginning of the episode Bitter Work.
Yeah, I noticed that. And I don't know if it was an intentional thing where I don't think Iro in Lu Ten spent any time inside Ba Sing Se where that was literally the hill.
Right.
But I do think that from a design standpoint, that was the same design. They just reused it in the animation or something.
Yeah, for sure.
There's also something I want to talk about how it's so sad to me that Iro, all he ever does is believe in and help others. And he spends his entire tale helping people across the city and then deals with his grief on his own. It's like, while that is a very personal thing, and I think it's totally fine that he spent that time grieving the loss of his son on his birthday, it's also like his tale really drove home to me. Iro just constantly helps others and people don't really ever help him.
Yeah, I had a different interpretation of that. And this is my big theory because it actually ties very closely to what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah.
I think that his day was spent as an entire memorial for his son. Think of it this way.
Okay.
He grabs a picnic basket. The shop owner is like, oh, do you want something more romantic? For me, that symbolizes, this is going to be a little gross for some of our younger listeners, I think, but the conception of his son. He goes out on a date with Lu Ten's mom, right? And that's how babies happen. The next thing he sees, besides the flower, is a kid crying in the street. Lu Ten as a young boy.
Oh my God.
He calms the kid down with a song that he later sings at his son's memorial. That's like a personal song to both of them. That was probably the song that calmed his son down. The next thing he does is he watches 4 boys playing soccer or football if you're in the UK. They break a window, which is a classic you're messing around in the backyard with the ball kind of scenario. Yeah. I would imagine that happened with Lu Ten. And he's trying to teach them a lesson of like, you know, you have to apologize. Unfortunately, the guy is super angry and super large. So he's like, just kidding, run. The second time is teaching fighting and teaching his son how to be a man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm speaking in generalities. I understand that sentence can be problematic, but like he's teaching him how to be an honorable person and how to defend himself. The thing he does after that is he goes to his son's grave.
Oh, I did not think about it that way. So Iroh's tale, his day is a mirror of Lu Ten's life.
Yeah. In my headcanon.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm going to take that forever and ever, because yes, I actually love that. How it's almost like you said, the romantic date where he first met Lu Ten's mom, and then from Lu Ten as a baby, and then a toddler, and then a young man. And then when he died early, because he died a soldier in like his 20s or something. So he died very young.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That makes it better.
So that was my big, that made me cry a little more when I came to that realization. I was just like, oh no, I'm not ready.
What made me cry even more is when his voice breaks as he's singing, like, oh God, I'm inconsolable at that point.
Oh man. So that was that episode, that was that tale. That was really up there as a shining moment in the whole series for me.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Now let's get to something happy and upbeat with Aang. Well, I say happy, but it actually starts pretty sad. Yeah.
So the Tale of Aang was written by Gary Shepke, and Aang soars above the city and lands in what looks like a zoo, but it's pretty run down. The animals are all caged and look really depressed, almost lifeless for some of them. When Aang approaches a tiger-dillo, that's really fun to say, by the way, tiger-dillo.
Yeah.
He holds out his hand and notes how hungry the animal looks. The tiger-dillo roars, which startles Aang, and then curls up in a ball and rolls deeper into its pen. They are hungry, Kenji the zookeeper tells the Avatar. He then mentions that the Dai Li won't give him any money because the kid stopped coming to his zoo since it's so run down. Walking through the zoo, it is apparent that Kenji cares deeply about these animals and sincerely wishes that he could give them the facility they deserve. Let's do it, Aang says, smiling. Kenji is a bit confused, but Aang tells the zookeeper that there is a big open space right outside the walls of the city. Kenji is a bit more of a realist, and he kind of asks, like, how are you going to get these animals to that open space? Don't worry, Aang assures Kenji. I'm great with animals. Aang's not quite as great with animals as he thought, as the wild animals run amok in the streets. Hog monkeys destroy pottery, elephant mandrills stampede down the street, a platypus bear swings at people as it stands on its hind legs, the tiger dillo that we saw earlier is just bouncing around the city, and finally, there's a Rabbaroo, which is super cute, by the way.
It is.
It's unfortunately not so cute to the cabbage merchant because it is just devouring his cabbages. The cabbage merchant tries to save a few heads of cabbage and begins to yell, "My cabbage!" but is interrupted as the Rabbaroo looks him in the eyes. "Oh, forget it," the merchant says as he walks away in defeat. This is the last episode featuring the cabbage merchant, everyone, so get your laughs in while you can.
I mean,
yeah,
I kind of get it at this point. It's like, cut your losses, man. Let's just go start a new dream.
He is mentioned in the Ember Island players, but that's it. So, yep, he's given up on his dream. He's going to go be a lawyer like Mama Cabbage Merchant asked him to be. Or a doctor. I don't know. Anyways, Aang tries to help wrangle the animals, but he can't quite get a hold of the situation. "This was so much easier in my head," he says as he scratches his head. Aang snaps his fingers and pulls out the bison whistle. He has an idea. He flicks up the whistle in the air and then inhales a ridiculous amount of air, which is obviously augmented by air bending, catches the whistle, and then blows into it as a sound wave just rushes through the entire city of Ba Sing Se, and Aang is at the epicenter. Every animal in the city hears this and rushes towards Aang, chasing him as they rush through the city to the gates. Kenji pleads with the guards to open the gates, but they refuse to do so until Aang and his stampede of new friends come rushing towards them. The gate opens and the animals run into the open field as Aang earthbends a new facility for them. Kenji is so impressed with this new facility and the avatar that he notes that Aang should consider working with animals for a living. We then see someone's pet cat, Fluffykins, stuck in the elephant mandrill's pen. And this Fluffykins is hissing at the larger animal. Kenji then mentions that maybe Aang should just stick to saving people. And everyone laughs. This one was pretty straightforward. The only bit of trivia I kind of brought up, I thought it was a nice, like, palate cleanser from Iroh's story.
It was, yeah.
Because that was very heavy. And this one's just like, watch Aang be Aang with his like super awesome, like well animated expressions. And like that whole like flick of the whistle was really cool. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that one.
I couldn't help but think, though, that if Appa was somewhere in Ba Sing Se, he would have heard that and not been able to get to Aang, and it made me sad.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, thanks for that.
I know. You're welcome. Have some feels. Let me shove it down your throat.
All right. That brings us to the Tale of Sokka, which, as a side note, I can't believe I'm going to say it. This is my least favorite tale out of all of them.
It's,
It does nothing.
Yeah.
It literally does nothing.
It doesn't have as much substance. It's like Sokka's external layer turned into a tail. It's just like, yeah.
I also think we get enough of Sokka's personality that we didn't need this necessarily.
Exactly. It didn't add another like layer of depth to his character.
Right.
It's like who he has been this whole time.
Yeah, he's just Sokka cool guy. And it's just like,
yeah.
Okay, cool. I get it. All right. So anyways, this tale was written by Lauren Macmulling, believe it or not, which I actually like. I like her episodes a lot, but this one, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. Anyways, Sokka walks through the streets of the city of Ba Sing Se. He looks incredibly bored and is casually tossing his boomerang as he walks. He heads down an alley and passes by a window where a young woman's voice attracts his attention. He sticks his head through the window where the voice is coming from and says, "What's this?" That's his best Jack Skellington impression right there. So Sokka Skellington, he says that as he watches a girl, and this girl is, like, looks about his age, and she's reciting a poem to a room full of other young women. Ah, poetry, Sokka says as he watches on in admiration of the delivery of the poem. And also, I think he's also kind of admiring the room full of young women. Suddenly, Sokka is kicked into the room by an ostrich horse, and the girls all gasp as he hangs halfway into the room. "I am so sorry. Something struck me in the rear," I just wound up here, Sokka says, and all the girls laugh and clap at Sokka's accidental haiku. 5, 7, then 5 syllables mark a haiku. Remarkable oath. A woman stands up with a more ornate headdress, and she recites that haiku as she stands up and bows her head and then glares at Sokka. Sokka's face twitches a bit, which is one of my favorite gifs, by the way.
Yes.
And then comes up with another haiku. They call me Sokka, that is in the water tribe. And then he stops and he counts 5 syllables on his finger. I am not an oaf. And the ladies laugh at his haiku again. Tittering monkey, in the spring he climbs treetops and thinks himself tall. The woman responds as she narrows her gaze. The girls interject at the obvious insult.
I think really what it comes down to is Sokka loves to perform for the attention of women. So he's just so ready to impress them and get some cheers and claps.
I think he just likes attention in general, especially from pretty young women. But I think he's just a big attention boy. So real quick, that woman who was like the head of the class or whatever, like she's running that whole academy. Her name is Madam Macmulling, and she's the instructor of the 575 Society and is actually named after Lauren Macmullen, who wrote this episode.
Oh, I could see that.
Yep.
Macmullen.
Yep. Also, really quickly, voiced by Melinda Clark, who, for all of you teen drama fans out there, she plays Julie Cooper Nickel Roberts Cooper.
Oh, okay.
Yep. If you've ever seen Firefly, she was the madam in one of the episodes where they had to all defend all the women. She's in the Vampire Diaries as well as Gotham.
Wow, talk about teen drama. You're right.
Yep. I love Melinda Clark, by the way. She's like amazing. This character is like right in her wheelhouse. She's very like condescending, very proud,
stern,
very, very, although sometimes she plays a floozy is what I found, like in the OC. Like she's a little bit of a floozy, but she's wonderful. I love her so much.
Very nice. Also, Madam Macmulling contains 5 syllables.
It does. That's really funny.
Also, if it isn't obvious, this haiku contest Sokka has with Madam Macmulling is kind of like an Avatar world equivalent of a modern day poetry slam or a rap battle where you go back and forth and try to one up the other person.
So I didn't put all of them in here, but just because I didn't really dig them too much. That's another nice little pun. Not pun, but like turn of phrase, I guess. So anyways, Sokka kind of continues effortlessly. You think you're so smart with your fancy little words. This is not so hard. After a back and forth of the haiku off, Sokka busts out a haiku that does not receive any praise from his adoring fans. When he sees this, he quickly counts the syllables and realizes his mistake. That's one too many syllables there, bub. A guard shows up out of nowhere and throws Sokka out of the building. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air style.
Yeah.
With DJ Jazzy Jeff, like in Uncle Phil, is just like he's flying. He's out of there.
Yep.
Poetry, Sokka says in a slightly different tone.
Yeah. He almost says it in like a dreamy, like regretful way, like, poetry.
I took it as more of a like poetry. What are you going to do? Like that kind of like, yeah. But it's not as, for me, the second delivery wasn't as dreamy state as the first one where he was just like head over heels. Okay. Speaking of head over heels, that brings us to the Tale of Zuko, which was written by Katie Mattia. We find ourselves at the Pao family tea house where Zuko and Iro are working. Zuko whispers to his uncle that they have a problem. He believes that one of the customers is onto them. He points out a girl on a corner table and says that she knows their Fire Nation. You all right, Zuko? I've seen this girl in here quite a lot. Seems to me she has a little crush on you, Iro says to his nephew, who is taken aback by his words. Thank you for the tea, the girl says as she pays for her cup. The girl then asks Zuko for his name, to which he introduces himself as Lee and his uncle as Mushi. The girl then introduces herself as Jin and asks if Zuko would like to go out with her sometime. He'd love to, Iro slides in and answers on his nephew's behalf. Jin then tells Lee to meet her in front of the shop at sundown. Iro smiles and puts his arm around Zuko, who can only glare at his uncle. Jin is actually voiced by Marcella Lentz Pope, who's been in Superbad. She's in League of Legends as a character named Kindred Lamb. I've never played League of Legends, so I have no idea. She's also been in Blue Bloods, as well as the movie Trolls World Tour.
Interesting.
It is now sundown, and Zuko walks out of the tea shop, and it is very obvious that Iro has dressed him. He is wearing fancier clothes, and his hair is slicked back and kind of parted down the middle. Jin walks up to Zuko and notes how cute he looks and ruffles his hair until it's back to normal. "It took my uncle 10 minutes to do my hair," Zuko says as he tries to stop the ruffling. You can never stop the ruffling, though. Once it starts, it never stops.
Yeah.
Jin grabs Zuko's arm and drags him away from the tea shop and into the town square. We next see Jin and Zuko sitting at a restaurant. Jin is drinking a cup of tea while Zuko is playing with the last meatball on his plate. Jin tries to make small talk with her date, but Zuko is giving brief answers and isn't really looking up from his food. He gives off this impression of like not being into her, but I just think he's like super nervous.
He's super awkward.
Yeah.
I love that dynamic, how he's nervous and she's just very accepting of that. Like, she doesn't seem to be put off by the way he's acting at all.
Oh yeah, I love that too. And I also love that, like, how casual she is.
Yeah.
Like, she's not trying to impress anyone, which I love.
I love that too.
Yeah. When a waiter walks up and asks Zuko if he or his girlfriend would like a dessert, Zuko overreacts and yells, "This is not my girlfriend!" Everyone stares at the couple briefly, but it doesn't seem to bother either one of them. Yeah, I love that where like Zuko yells that like he overreacts and everyone's staring at them and Zuko's like, "Whatever, I don't care." And then she's just like, "It's cool, whatever." Just slurping on some noodles.
Shoveling food. Yeah.
"You have quite an appetite for a girl," Zuko says as Jin slurps down a mouthful of noodles. Obviously not the best thing to say on a first date, but Jin kind of brushes the words away and asks more questions about life for Lee and Mushi before Ba Sing Se. Zuko kind of does leave his answers vague. He hasn't become a better liar in his new life. He's still just like, we were out doing things. And really, he gives a solid answer once Jin really kind of presses for more information. So Zuko kind of lies and just says that they traveled as part of a traveling circus. They were in there.
Of all things, Zuko.
I know. It's like, really? Anyways, Jin asks, "Really, what did you do?" And thinks for a moment and examines Zuko a little bit and says, "You juggled." Zuko folds his arm and confirms her thoughts. When she asks Zuko to show her some juggling, he tries his best, but ultimately fails to do any sort of juggling, and everything just crashes down on the table.
I love how he basically just like threw them up in the air one at a time and then like expected something to happen. And then they all just came crashing down.
There was a moment where I was like, is he going to get away with this? Does he know how to juggle? And then he didn't. I think it's very similar to like where anyone, if they've seen juggling before, they go, "This can't be so hard." They know how to do the movements, but they don't have the hand-eye coordination. So he does that, right? He does the movements and just nothing happens. Nothing good happens anyways. "I haven't practiced in a while," he admits. Jin tells him that it's all right, and she brings him to one of her favorite places in the city.
I have a note about the date.
Yeah.
I read something interesting in the art book. Joachim Dos Santos joined the Avatar crew on this episode, and while he had a reputation as an incredible action artist, his talent for comedy and subtle acting in storyboard work came through in this date scene between Zuko and Jin.
Oh, for sure.
So he pretty much mapped out this whole exchange and the back and forth and the outbursts, the smooth overs, and all of that. So props to Joachim.
Yeah, it was so well done. You don't really notice what's going on, and you're more invested in it than you are aware of.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's all like the little micro expressions, the timing, all of that. It's just beautifully done. Jin's favorite place in the whole city is called Firelight Fountain, and she brings Zuko there and tells the prince that she's so excited to show him the fountain because the lamps make the water sparkle and reflect in the pool in the most beautiful way. When the two reach the fountain, however, Jin is let down as the torches that surround the fountain were not lit tonight. Zuko looks at Jin and tells her to close her eyes and to not peek. When she does, Zuko firebends small flames into each of the torches with precision and grace. "Okay, you can look now," he tells his date. Jin is overwhelmed with excitement and begins to ask, "What happened? And how did you do it?" But she drops the thought, and the two stare at the beauty of the fountain. Jin holds Zuko's hand, and she leans in for a kiss, But Zuko sticks a coupon for a free cup of tea in between their lips and tells her that he brought it for her. Jin notes how sweet the coupon is, and Zuko is quick to tell her that it was his uncle's idea. Your uncle is a good teacher, Jin says, and she walks in close to Zuko. I have something for you too. Now it's your turn to close your eyes. Jin kisses Zuko, and Zuko kisses her back, but then quickly pulls away. When Jin asks what's wrong, Zuko tells her that it's complicated and leaves. I have a note here. What's wrong, Zuko? Was something crawling in your skin? Do you have wounds that won't heal, Mr. Lincoln Park?
Are you awkward and troubled, Zuko?
You wouldn't get it. It's problems that I have that are exclusive to me and no other teenager in the history of teenage writing.
Oh man, I love just how angsty of a teenager he is.
He's so
It's like,
angsty.
it's so good. But at the same time, I could not help but think it's a good thing that Jet is locked up at this point, because he would be following Zuko if he was free and would have totally seen that firebending.
I actually think, yes, I agree. But I think it would be funnier if Jet was not locked up, because can you just imagine like Zuko going on this date and then we cut to Jet every once in a while who's trying to spy on them but not doing such a hot job and like knocking things over, or if Jet was the waiter in disguise, like how funny
that would be funny. That would be a different kind of comedy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so back at home, Iro is looking out the window and searching for any sign of his nephew, which is hilarious. Like, are you coming?
So
here,
cute.
Here. Zuko walks in the door, which means that he knows that Iro was probably looking for him, so he just sneaks in through a different like way, essentially. Which, in my headcanon, he's using his blue spirit training or
to
skills
to
try to sneak in.
So he doesn't have to answer any questions.
Right, yeah. So he kind of just does a teenager thing, right? Where he like storms into their apartment or their new home. And then when Iro asks how his night went, Zuko just responds by slamming the door to his room. And it's like, boom, I don't want to talk to you. A moment later, Zuko cracks open the door, though, and admits that it was nice. He closes the door again, and Iro is happy for his nephew.
I love it. I love their dynamic so much. Also, just like when they first move there, Iro buys a bouquet to put in a vase.
Yep.
Here you go. That is where I want to say vase instead of vase.
Okay.
He buys flowers to make their place look nice, just in case Zuko brings home a lady friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, when said lady friend starts hitting on Zuko, he's like, of course my nephew would like to go on a date. And he dresses him up and he brushes his hair. And he's like, just Iro as a father figure is the cutest freaking thing ever.
I also like that Iro spent 10 minutes on Zuko's hair.
Yeah,
that's a
10
long
whole
time.
minutes to make his nephew look nice, when really it was just awkward.
Yeah, it was not great. So that brings us to our final tale of Ba Sing Se, which is also another heartstring puller.
Ugh, yeah. We had our break. Now back into the feels.
This is the Tale of Momo, and it was written by Justin Ridge and Giancarlo Volpe. Momo is having a wonderful dream. He dreams that he is with Appa, and they fly up to a very tall tree and share the fruits that are hanging from the vines. As Momo is chewing on a fruit, he looks down at Appa, who suddenly roars very loudly. And Momo wakes up and jumps into Sokka's bag for comfort. When he pops his head out, there is a tuft of Appa's fur on his head. And when he sniffs it, he remembers a time of them flying together. He looks down at the ground and sees a bison-shaped shadow flying overhead. Momo ties the fur around his wrist and takes off after the shadow. But when he catches up to it, he realizes that the shadow belongs to a thundercloud, and he is missing his friend. Momo looks at his wrist and then looks up at a nearby rooftop where it looks like Appa is laying down. He rushes over only to see that the shape belongs to a tree with white leaves, and the branches are kind of sticking out of those leaves and they resemble Appa's horns. Momo lands on one of these branches and is sad. The flying lemur then flies through the city and stops at a barrel filled with water for a quick drink. He clumsily knocks over a stick with his tail as he enjoys his drink, which unfortunately gets the unwanted attention of nearby pygmy pumas. They growl and screech at Momo, who immediately runs away in terror. The pygmy pumas chase Momo through the streets and even manage to knock him down when he tries to fly away. Momo tries to use a nearby crowd for cover, but he is immediately grabbed by a man who puts a tiny hat on the lemur and throws him into the middle of a street show. Momo plays along and dances with the other small monkeys as the crowd claps and cheers, which is hilarious and cute, by the way.
It is.
His dance is so ridiculous.
Yeah. And that music too, the
Yeah. I love that. Perfect. The pygmy pumas catch up to Momo and break up the show as Momo jumps out of his hat and tries to fly away. Seconds later, the pumas rip him out of the sky and have him in their clutches when a net comes out of nowhere and covers and captures all the animals. We see that the net belongs to an animal control officer, and he cages Momo separate from the pumas. When the officer locks Momo's cage, the lemur looks at the fur tied to his wrist and snuggles it closely and purrs. The animal control officer tries to sell the animals to a nearby butcher, and while Momo can't understand their words, he knows this is not good. Momo is able to easily free himself from his cage and is about to take off when he looks back and sees that the pumas are scared because they know what's going to happen. Being the greatest being that there ever was, Momo jumps up and frees the pumas, who all take off to the rooftops and are now best friends forever.
That was so wholesome.
I know. One of the pumas unties the tuft of fur and runs off with it. Momo chitters after the puma, but ultimately chases it through the city. The puma drops the fur on the ground, and then they all run away as it begins to rain. Momo jumps on top of the fur and holds it tight. When the camera pulls out, we see that Momo is resting in a giant footprint that belongs to his lost friend Appa. That's the episode.
No.
Yeah.
My only notes for this episode is one word.
Yeah.
Tears.
Yes. Yeah. This one, very straightforward, but it was very well done. Again, not a single line of dialogue was said. Oh, and that's not true. There was like, I don't know, like not mumbling. There, like it was like Momo listening to people talk, which he doesn't understand. So it was like, but that
the
was
Charlie
it, right?
Brown voice type thing.
There's no like meaningful dialogue in there. It's all just like read through expressions and the environment and all of that. This is actually the last time that Momo's signature theme is heard.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. But that is the Tales of Ba Sing Se. Now, we're not going to tell you our MVP like I told you in the beginning of the episode. And we're not going to go through a moral of the story because there are so many different stories and there are so many different tales that we would be here forever. And I know a lot of people are just like, yeah, just do it. We want to be here forever. It's like, well, no, I'm going to respect your time and let you know that you can go listen to other episodes of Avatar the Podcast again. What I want to know, Acorn, is what is your favorite tale from this episode?
Oh, I have to say Zuko's.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised.
I love it for a lot of reasons. And I think it's actually me cheating because I would say Iroh's, but I also really like Zuko's. And Iroh makes an appearance in Zuko's. So it's kind of like I get both.
Fair. That's fair.
What about you?
I thought for sure we're going to have to fight over Iroh's tale because Iroh's is my favorite. But if you had said Iroh's, my close second is Momo's tale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It is really cute.
It's really cute. It is very well written, well done. They express so much emotion and so much thought and care into an episode with no dialogue, or a part of the episode with no dialogue. And it also just like pulls at your heartstrings. Like it is just the tale of a friend missing another friend and trying to find them no matter what the cost.
I think what it does really well too is portrays Momo's and Appa's friendship in a way that we haven't seen before, because we kind of take them for granted. It's like they're the two animals in the group. So of course they're going to interact, they're going to be friendly with each other. But I feel like this is the first time I've really gotten how close they are, because Momo is extremely sad that Appa's gone.
Yeah.
And getting on those reminders just makes him even more sad. And I think that's cool because if we think back to the start of the show, they didn't know each other. It was Aang and Appa in the iceberg, and they only met Momo later at the Southern Air Temple. So they're new friends. They've only been friends for a couple months. It's not like the bond between Aang and Appa.
Right.
But I think because of their background coming from the temple, I think they formed a really close friendship. And so it's just cool to see it from Momo's perspective in this tale.
I think something that sways me in this as well is he also might not understand what's going on.
Yeah, like what happened. I know something bad happened.
So even though Toff told everyone, he can't understand humans. So he's just like, my friend was here and now he's not.
Oh no, that makes me think when a family member dies unexpectedly and the dog like doesn't get it and just mopes around the house because it's where's dad? Where's mom?
Yeah. Yeah. Or they like go over to that person's favorite chair and just stare at it.
Yeah. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
I know. Yeah. All right. I'm going to cry. Not while I'm recording,
I
though.
don't want to cry anymore.
Stop it. Well, maybe after next episode, we should be fine, I hope. But
yeah,
We'll see.
Not looking forward to that.
And that is actually all of the time that we have. That's everything we want to talk about for the Tales of Ba Sing Se. Remember, if you're caught up on all the episodes, you can join me over at twitch.tv/BoosterGreg. You might notice that my streams are a little less frequent now, potentially. We are recording this a little bit ahead. For that, I apologize. It is a good reason, but I am always on Twitter. You can always join the Geek Generation Discord. That just pops up on my phone. It's impossible to ignore. And we've actually had a lot of more new friends come in and share some more news, memes, all that great stuff as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you can find me online at Acorn Bandit. And also on joysons.com, the home of our Avatar the Podcast pins.
Yeah. And don't forget about the Patreon. You can always find us over at, or not find us, but you can always help out if you want over at patreon.com/Avatar the Podcast. The link for that will also be in the show notes, just in case anyone can't write this down because you're driving. Please don't crash your car because you're driving and listening to this. That would not be great. But yeah, if you want to help support the show, you can do so over there, as well as, like we said in the beginning, leaving a 5-star written review over on Apple Podcasts, or just telling your friends, or going to the town center and screaming out, or actually, no, we already said yelling it from the rooftops. So going to the town center, getting the largest Bluetooth speaker that you can find and playing it. Make sure you have a permit.
Extra points if it's at the Firelight Fountain.
Ooh, yes. Extra points for that. All right. Coming up next time,
Appa joins the circus.
And need to get a message to the Avatar? Use the Air Bison Courier Service. All this and more next time on Avatar the Podcast.
Avatar the Podcast is a proud part of the Geek Generation Network. Remember to check out all of our podcasts at thegeekgeneration.com.